I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the issues involved in this dispute. I'm going to call Pete Davis in a moment, who'll be able to say a bit more about it. But this is really a dreadful company which has treated its workers horrifically. There's been a lack of welfare facilities for the guys working on these sites. When they've tried to organise through the GMB, they've been victimised. And of course, two of the GMB reps, Jim and Gordon, I believe Jim will be speaking for us shortly, have been sacked. This is an ongoing dispute. The company involved has hired an army of zero-hour contractors to try and prevent any strike action by the GMB, and that's why we're holding these protests. We do have a lot of leaflets, so what we're trying to do is give information to the people coming in and out of the site and explaining the dispute to them. So I'll call Pete, please.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been a very long, some would say complex dispute. We're now heading into our 10th month. And for those of you who are not aware, this company, Green Company, are subcontracted to Veolia, who have a huge contract with Sheffield City Council for waste management. Somewhere in the region of £34–35 million a year is paid out in that contract to manage Sheffield's waste recycling and refuse collection. A number of years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, the guys who work on the 5 household waste recycle centres, who all wear Veolia uniforms, or certainly did at the time, came to the GMB and asked us if we could do anything to help them with their employer at the time, who was basically a second-hand fridge salesman from Shara, but called themselves North Notts and South Yorkshire Waste Recycle Limited, something like that. And they all joined the union. To cut a long story short, they joined the union. We got a recognition agreement. Jim Rogers, who's here, where are you, Jim? Stick your hand up at the back there. He's a lot younger than he looks. Jim Rogers became the rep. We got a recognition agreement and the company sacked him. We got him reinstated, we had a dispute, in fact they sacked him again later on, and we got him reinstated again. And eventually we lobbied the council, and the council agreed with Veolia to re-tender this contract. So 3 years ago, a large charity called Sova won the contract, and very quickly, as soon as they won it, they decided they didn't want it. They wanted nothing to do with it. So rather than have a re-tender process, the council officers mashed together a deal with the guys who'd run the contract, who bid for the contract, and Salvaire, a new charity, was born, which is basically 4 trustees based between Birmingham and London who'd left Sova. Some of them still worked for Sova, but they'd left Sova, they'd started a new charity, and the charity created the Green Company. So the Green Company is owned 100% by Salvaire, the charity. So a bit of a mess, really, but it enabled them to embed the contract and run the contract, and that wasn't really our concern. Our concern were the terms and conditions of the people who worked here. And again, to cut a long story short, with the council and Veolia's help and ACAS, we managed to do a deal for our members, and we got them their hours back, and we started making some headway with the new management team that Salvaire had sent in, the Green Company. Sharon Lowry, who's here, was the finance director and acted as a consultant and embedded the contract. And things moved on, and we moved in leaps and bounds. We had a fantastic relationship with the senior management team, all of whom joined the union, all pulled in the same direction. It was too good to be true. We got the living wage, we got a bonus scheme which we negotiated, which gave the guys for the first time a good, stable income, something to build on. We had really appalling welfare facilities, which Sharon Lowry and the management team, working with the GMB, managed to make headway, and we started lobbying Veolia, who were responsible for the welfare facilities, and we were making headway there. So things were good. But then the chair of the charity decided they were too good. She wanted a piece of this cake. She didn't want to act as a trustee on behalf of the charity. She wanted to take over. It was too good, and she wanted this organisation to be hers, really. That's the top and bottom of it. And unbeknownst to me, Sharon Lowry, I didn't know any of this, walked into my office last July the 15th, and said, "Pete, I've been suspended." And I said, "What for, Sharon?" "What do you mean you've been suspended? Everything's going well. She said, no, I've been suspended because the chair of the charity has been taking £5,000 a month, every month, in consultancy fees for what? I have no idea. Doing nothing, never done anything, never provided so much as a leaflet, and yet was charging £5,000 a month to a printing company that she owned, supposedly for consultancy services, printing services, marketing services. I've no idea. This is the only contract they've got. It doesn't need marketing. It's a contract with the council, and there's nobody else to market it to. So there were fallouts over that, but there were also fallouts because Sharon had a conversation with a councillor. Well, you know, what a huge crime that is. She'd had a conversation with a councillor who was pressuring her and Veolia in partnership with the GMB to get the living wage paid. And they didn't like that. The trustee did not like the fact that conversations had been had with a councillor about the living wage, although that was all passed at board level, and saw that as an excuse to come in and, you know, take over the company in real sense. And Sharon, I think, might have something to say about that in a bit. She's a bit nervous, so whether she speaks or not, I don't know. That's where it started. But that really wasn't just the dispute. Once the guys on these sites knew that £5,000 was being paid to a trustee of a charity, once they knew there was that sort of money floating about, they quite rightly wanted premium rates. They work weekends for nothing extra. They work weekends for the living wage and nothing extra. So we put in a dispute. We wanted, if there's that sort of money kicking about, we want a premium rate. We wanted the welfare facilities sorted out, and we wanted the bullying of the management team to stop. Now that bullying has got worse and worse, because since we've gone into dispute, it's no longer the bullying of those management team. And by the way, Sharon was sacked. Andy, who's here, was the operations manager. He was forced out of his job. Rachel, who's head of HR, she came to work to find that one of the friends of the trustees, who's now taken over, was doing her HR job. So the entire senior management team literally disappeared overnight. We've got a number of workers who work on this contract who are disabled, who've got learning difficulties, some quite severe learning difficulties. They've been bullied. We started intermittent strikes, but one of the guys who's quite severely disabled, mental health issues, he was bullied, he was targeted. So the guys had a walkout. The reps were later sacked for the walkout, and everybody else was given a final written warning. We went into then legitimate and lawful strike action. However, the company went out and took on an army of zero-hour workers. Those people who are working in there today, all of our members have been redeployed from that site today because you guys were coming here to have a protest. The workers in there are management and zero-hour contract workers, and there is an army of them, So it doesn't matter if we have strikes, we cannot affect the service, because for every GMB member, and they were all GMB members at the start of this, for every GMB member there's a zero-hour contract person waiting to fill their jobs, in the words of the former chair and now company director. So when I said that this chair wanted to come in and take over, she's taken over. She's no longer a trustee. She's no longer the chair. She's now the company director. This is hers. That's exactly what she intended to do. We tried again to run some strikes over Easter, just an hour a day to keep this in the public's eye. Every GMB member, even though that was a lawful action, every GMB member was written to and told, if you go on strike, you will be disciplined. And they're all on final written warnings from the last strike. So it doesn't matter whether they're lawful strikes or not lawful strikes. Any industrial action here, even if it's within the law, will be punished by the dismissals of our members. That's what we're facing here. So it's vitally important that the TUC, and Bill Adams is here to talk to you in a bit, it's vitally important that through organisations like the TUC and the Trades Council and the rest of the trade union movement, that we have protests and we have rallies to keep this in the public eye and keep the fight going, because do you know what? We cannot win on the picket lines. They will sack every single GMB member if we bring them out. Now, we are running a fresh ballot. We are going to look at how they're going to challenge that fresh ballot, and we will try to bring the guys out on strike again. But don't hold your breath. I cannot risk our members being sacked en masse, and that's what these bastards, pardon my French, will be doing. So that's the dispute. I could go on and on and on. What I will say is that Harry Harpham's here, new MP for the area, and it's fantastic that you've come, Harry. Harry is one of the people often say, that councils can't bring stuff back in-house, they can't act on things. I'm proud to say that Harry is one of the councillors who ignored that completely. I don't know whether you're aware, but he brought Sheffield Homes back into the council. A massive outsourcing into an Almo, which was, they had managers coming out their ears on huge salaries. Harry was the councillor that led that and made that happen in Sheffield City Council, and he's been a massive supporter of this campaign. Elected members like Harry are doing all that they can to intervene in this contract, but it is quite complex. There is a contract in place at the end of the day, but I'm confident that through supporters like Harry and Bob Johnson, who's here today, who's been at the forefront of this campaign, through local elected members like them, we will get rid of these bastards. Thank you.